All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello, all. It's our Big Friday show. Glad you could be here. I know many would not be buoyed by the cheap canned applause that would be, but I find myself oddly encouraged. Yes, buoyed is the word that comes to mind. It just lifts my spirit. Thank you all, please, if you could just be seated. It's overwhelming, honestly. Your love is overwhelming. Your recorded love is really something special. Thank you. Oh my gosh, this is extraordinary. Really, I want to thank everyone who's made this show possible, and that means you watching and smashing the like button, the thumbs up, that matters. And
smash it with your iron rod.
Many of you have actually contributed to our show and continue to do so on a monthly basis. That makes all this possible.
There's never been anything like this.
It really hasn't. There hasn't been anything like it, Mr. President. Thank you. Now, he will be the topic of much in the conversation we have with the award-winning journalist Jim Avila beginning of the next hour. And then we will, of course, provide you with the latest Florida news. Albert has curated the finest material out of the state of Florida.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
In some stories, there is alcohol involved.
Albert, thank you.
And I do think we have a reptile in today's show from
I think we got
Florida.
a couple of them in there, too.
Yeah. Much to do. Oh, look at this. Right out of the chute. Is this Vicky and Sauce? I got to put my credibility glasses on, excuse me, to actually see the screen. I need to be provided with the, Mark, you're the best. Happy Friday. How about a 20 from Vicky? Glad I put my glasses on to read that.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. And a...
Thank you so much.
Vicky, thank you so much. All my friends in Sausalito. Lovely community over the Golden Gate Bridge. Take the exit. Now, the touristy way to go when you want to go to Sausalito, which is over the Golden Gate Bridge, first exit is the touristy way. It's also the nice way. You go down, you see the bay, but it can be congested. The other touristy way is to go 2 exits down, then you go in through the other side. But that seems like it's too far. Really, that way I just described is the way most people, I think, go to Sausalito. But the Sausalitans, Vicky, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like you guys go Spencer Avenue, or you'll, depending on where you live in Sausalito, the 3rd exit. Anyway, I'm not sure, but I know one.
Beautiful
Thank
drive,
you
though.
so,
You're along the
so
water.
much.
Down
Thank you,
there.
Susan.
Yes,
it is a beautiful drive. Look, Sausalito's gorgeous. I mean, that's why it's a tourist spot. So many people go there because it's so pretty. It's just amazing. And it's amazing that you can have a real life there amidst all those tourists. But you can. It's a beautiful community. So I really enjoy the word from Vicky, who is in
There's
Sausalito.
never been anything like this.
Yeah, thank you, Vicky. Well, without any further delay, let's get into it. There's some stuff going on,
The Mark Thompson Show.
The SAG-AFTRA strike is on. It's high profile because it involves many of the people that we know, right? Actors, on-screen performers have now joined writers in Hollywood trying to craft some kind of deal with studios that have seen their business model change rapidly and dramatically. Meaning the old school way, and it was not that long ago that it was the way that writers, actors, producers were compensated based on work on television series and even movies. was associated with this first run, second run, third run. You've heard, this is syndication kind of thing. If it's in first run syndication or second run syndication, it simply means it's in its first possible run for us to see it. Then it's in its second run, which means it's its first run of repeats, if you want to think of it that way. That's the term that we used to use, and it still was used. And then third run, fourth run, and something like Seinfeld, which is almost an evergreen. You can keep running it. They will make money off of all of those runs. Now, even though their money goes down, their compensation continues with every run of the show. So through syndication, by now, this has been discussed ad nauseum, I'm sure, but I'm just trying to, again, quickly set the stage for what is a dramatic change in the way the business is set up. The business of Hollywood now is suddenly different. Streaming has suddenly made what I just described completely irrelevant. You have now shows that air on streamers. There is no rerun. It lives there, and you click on it whenever you want. Maybe it's the first time, maybe it's the fifth time. But there is no actual record of it being now in its third run, etc. So the whole syndication business has changed now. It's not. This has nothing to do necessarily with these striking writers and actors. The business of Hollywood has changed dramatically as a result of streaming. And so when the studios say, our business has changed, they're right. But when they say, and we're not making any money anymore, and our profits are down, they're not right. There still is money there. The way the money's getting to them is changing, and the amount of money that ultimately comes into them may change as well. But the idea somehow that simply because there's been this dramatic change in the business model, and the delivery model really is what it is, right? The streaming is delivering to us in all of its different ways on our phones, on our tablets, on our televisions. The delivery model's changed, but the studios are still doing well. Now, what do you do with performers and what do you do with writers whose contracts are based on the old business model? You have to honor this new system by making a new deal. If you want them to be partners in this creative enterprise and this business enterprise, it has to be a win-win. And so far, from what I've seen, and we'll play you a little bit of what was announced at these press conferences, and I thought they were really powerful. This is a real point of reckoning for Hollywood, and that win-win is not being honored. Albert, do you have Fran Drescher, who is and by the way, this is interesting because when Fran Drescher was at that Dolce & Gabbana thing that she had to do in Italy, you were saying, God, this is just so tone deaf to be doing Dolce & Gabbana appearance during essentially the 11th hour of your negotiations for AFTRA. And as it turns out, it was, and I meant this point at the time, I don't know if you remember, but I said, yeah, this is probably some contractual thing. She's not going over there to a fashion show. She probably has to honor some contractual commitment. And indeed, that's what it was. But it was even more impressive than that. She did it, she honored the commitment, and then she jumped on a Zoom call, and she's in negotiations again. So I wanted to mention that I think that might even be in some of her remarks. Go ahead, Albert, run a little bit. This is the press conference yesterday with Fran Drescher and her partner in negotiation, the AFTRA negotiator, and I don't know his name. Maybe you can find it, Albert. The dude to her right, to her left, actually, our right. Anyway, he's very good as well. So here you go. This is a bit from yesterday's press conference.
That wasn't a selfie. Excuse me, I just want
She was asked about the Dolce & Gabbana selfie with Kim Kardashian.
Before Fran answers that, I want to say it is outrageous that they would do that. You know what Fran was doing was working, which is...
Albert, why is it not louder? Stop for a second. Why is it not louder, Albert?
That's a lot. Let me try to boost it a little bit.
Can you try to boost it, please, sir?
Yeah.
Can you put it into your special boost machine?
Albert, thank you.
Yeah. I want people to be able to hear it easily. But I'm going to pay off this Dolce & Gabbana thing first, and then it segues into a conversation. And the other thing that I think we find is Fran Drescher speaking passionately about this situation and the situation I just described. And it's troubling. I mean, it really is. This is a moment, and, you know, I know there may be a portion of our audience, and I don't know, and I'll look at the comments, but who feel like, you know, actors, writers, Hollywood, all a bunch of entitled elites making money. I mean, these are legitimately creative forces in America. They export culture. There is a powerful cultural texture that's established worldwide as a result of a lot of these series that go international. So it's actually, I consider these artists quite important, and there's good and bad of that, by the way. But they deserve to be well compensated for what they do. And now you're looking at really knocking the legs, the financial legs out from under a lot of these writers, because essentially these jobs that used to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a year are now paying like $47,000 a year. I mean, that really, there's that kind of change. Want to try it again, Albert? Here we go. This is responding yesterday.
For working actors. Today, we embark on a new important chapter in our union's history. Earlier this morning, the SAG
This press conference today, it's really important that this negotiation be covered, because the eyes of the world, and particularly the eyes of labor, are upon us. What happens here is important, because what's happening to us is happening across all fields of labor, by means of when employers make Wall Street and greed their priority, and they forget about the essential contributors that make the machine run. We have a problem, and we are experiencing that right at this moment. This is a very seminal hour for us. I went in earnest, thinking that we would be able to avert a strike. The gravity of this move is not lost on me or our negotiating committee or our board members who have voted unanimously to proceed with a strike. It's a very serious thing that impacts thousands, if not millions of people all across this country and around the world. Not only members of this union, but people who work in other industries that service the people that work in this industry. And so it came with great sadness that we came to this crossroads, but we had no choice. We are the victims here. We are being victimized by a very greedy entity. I am shocked by the way the people that we have been in business with are treating us. I cannot believe it, quite frankly. How far apart we are on so many things. How they plead poverty, that they're losing money left and right when giving hundreds of millions of dollars to their CEOs. It is disgusting. Shame on them. They stand on the wrong side of history at this very moment. We stand in solidarity, in unprecedented unity. Our union and our sister unions and the unions around the world are standing by us, as well as other labor unions. Because at some point, the jig is up. You cannot keep being dwindled and marginalized and disrespected and dishonored. The entire business model has been changed by streaming, digital, AI. This is a moment of history that is a moment of truth. If we don't stand tall right now, we are all going to be in trouble. We are all going to be in jeopardy of being replaced by machines and big business. Who cares more about Wall Street than you and your family? Most of Americans don't have more than $500 in an emergency. This is a very big deal, and it weighed heavy on us. But at some point, you have to say, no, we're not going to take this anymore. You people are crazy. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Privately, they all say we're the center of the wheel. Everybody else tinkers around our artistry, but actions speak louder than words. And there was nothing there. It was insulting. So we came together in strength and solidarity and unity with the largest strike authorization vote in our union's history. And we made the hard decision that we tell you as we stand before you today. This is major. It's really serious, and it's going to impact every single person that is in labor. We are fortunate enough to be in a country right now that happens to be labor friendly. And yet we were facing opposition that was so labor unfriendly, so tone deaf to what we are saying. You cannot change the business model as much as it has changed and not expect the contract to change too. We're not going to keep doing incremental changes on a contract that no longer honors what is happening right now with this business model that was foisted upon us. What are we doing? Moving around furniture on the Titanic? It's crazy. So the jig is up, AMPTP. We stand tall. You have to wake up and smell the coffee. We are labor, and we stand tall, and we demand respect and to be honored for our contribution. You share the wealth because you cannot exist without us. Thank you.
All right, that Fran Drescher, obviously, her remarks yesterday following the negotiations that broke down, the chief negotiator is Duncan Crabtree Ireland. That was the bigger guy that you saw to her left. The deal is this. Apparently, and I don't know why they said this, but they did, negotiations were proceeding even optimistically. And then yesterday, there was a decision to strike that was preceded by the fact that the talks had grown contentious. Now, let me just put a couple of specifics on that. The talks grew contentious, apparently, when SAG-AFTRA made a demand wanting streaming companies, including Netflix, Disney, Amazon, to share with performers the revenue generated through subscriptions. This is all according to people who are close to the negotiation. SAG-AFTRA had asked that 2% of the streaming revenue be distributed to performers who appeared in their most successful movies and shows, because streaming companies have refused to provide precise viewership data. You know this. They're notoriously cloaked when it comes to any data about how many viewers and how much viewership any show or any platform has. They'll tell you how many subscribers they'll have, but they won't tell you how many people watch The Bear on Hulu or watch some Netflix series. In any case, because streaming companies have refused to provide precise viewership data with producers and other creatives, SAG-AFTRA suggested, hey, let's do this. We'll use data from a third party. Parrot Analytics is a name of a third party that they identified. We can use them. They're objective. They'll measure the popularity of the streaming programs, and then based on that popularity, you'll compensate us, is what SAG and AFTRA was saying. And she says, Fran Drescher, that she and other negotiators went in thinking that there was going to be a deal, because you kept hearing a sort of a rosy picture as to what it was going to be. That is to say, how the negotiation was proceeding. And, you know, as I was mentioning to you before, and then she notes it also, this is a massive change in the way Hollywood is set up. It's hard to believe that they could find their way through it, but it was said for a while that they were finding their way through it. But clearly now they're not, right? So what's going to happen? By the way, I'll mention one other thing just to take you into the negotiation room for a moment, because you're finding things out from people who are close to the negotiations. And one of the things we found out was that SAG-AFTRA showed up with a lot of people in the room. 30 people was the number. And that put off the other side of the table. And as a result, there were delays. And so, you know, all the superficial stuff or all the stuff associated with repping strength, they say maybe that got in the way as well. It certainly caused delays in meetings. And they say the studios were tone deaf in all of their responses. Now, I mean, I think she's right. Your entire business model has been changed by streaming, digital, and AI, she said in those remarks we just heard. You cannot keep, dwindling and marginalizing and disrespecting and dishonoring these people who are the creatives. That's what she said, and that's the way she feels. Here's the problem. I mean, aside from the obvious, this is going to have a massive ripple effect across, by the way, Los Angeles. Many of our viewers are from Los Angeles. This will have a major ripple effect. It's going to affect everything from, the restaurants and dry cleaners that you always hear talked to and talked about in regards to strikes, and particularly when it comes to Hollywood, but also to home buying and to other sort of big economic markers around Southern California. And it's not just Southern California. Atlanta has become an East Coast mecca of television and film production. It affects Canada, where much of this production is done as well. It affects New Zealand and Great Britain, etc. This is a big deal economically, and it's a big deal for labor. She's right about that. I think Drescher is on target in her remarks when she speaks about the wide-reaching effects and how this is an inflection moment in labor negotiations. I'm not watching the chats, Albert. Can you tell me if there's anything I need to address? I'd be happy to address it. But my sense of things is that this could last a long time.
You kind of feel the parallels with radio, how it just was changing, but there was no end goal. There was no like, oh yeah, this will survive it. But this is like media. This is something that we all take in. And it's weird they can't go with like a YouTube model. Can't they do streams for a number of views and pay? But it gets confusing. There's a lot more staff.
Well, they won't share that data with you. You can see how many subscribers we have. You can even see how many people viewed a video of ours, but you can't see that in the world of Netflix, in the world of Amazon. Karen D says the core business model has changed, but actors and writers have not kept up to date. When streaming came on the scene, they should have immediately jumped on this ASAP, should have seen it coming. Well, Karen, here's the problem with that. You only jump on it, as you say, when your contract comes up. You have a contract that runs for a certain term. When it comes up, you make a note. All right, we want to address that in the next contract negotiation. In this case, the term is up. They're addressing it in a contract negotiation, and you can see what's happening. I don't blame the actors on this one. In fact, they've sort of taken the bullet, actors and writers both. The writers' room, we detailed that 6 weeks ago when that strike began, 7 weeks ago. And in the writers' rooms, that entire model has changed as well. We had Billy Ray on, and we'll have him on again. The writer of Captain Phillips and Hunger Games, and he's written big stuff. And he's very much involved in this, and he's talking about the fact that these writers' rooms now, they have essentially, cut them by 2/3, and then they're not compensated on the back end. That back end is everything I'm talking about, the reruns, the repeats. So in a way, they've taken that bullet for as long as this streaming has really been, the coin of the realm. And it is the coin of the realm now. And the last thing I would say is that streaming and AI are huge. And Hollywood is even looking at ways in which they can take AI, and you've seen this on news reports because it's a very sexy thing to talk about. AI and Hollywood together can take an actor, the balance of an actor's work, and they can create their own film or television vehicle using the information that they have gleaned from just the stuff that they've mined. They data mine the actor, facial expressions, words, everything. And they can voice generate and completely invent that actor, even though the actor never shows up to the set for the next project. How do you handle that? There was an ad, was it an ad or maybe it was a fake ad, for an actor, any actor, a casting, to come to a casting for a complete day. They shoot you in all of these different positions, facial expressions, etc. Then they match a bunch of dialogue, you say a bunch of things, for one day. And they could build that film or television project I just talked about off that one day. And what do they pay the actor for? One day. They don't pay that actor for the actual run, the number of episodes of that television show or for that feature film. I think it's a significant moment in Hollywood. What else was there, Albert? Anything?
Nothing on this, but we do have a couple donations if we want to do that before we get to news. We had
Yes.
William.
All right. William, what up, William? I want to give you first.
Big shout out.
Big shout out, William. Thank you for a quick 20. Come on.
Big shout out.
Yeah, all right. Another big shout out.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, William. Appreciate
We
it.
got Gail Guthrie, another.
Gail Guthrie, HOF.
Big shout out.
TGIF, thanks for a great show. There's a 20. Gail Guthrie. Gail, I'm not going to cry.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
I'm not going to, but I'm just saying.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
If anybody could get me to cry, country,
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
it's Gail Guthrie. And Vilma, you are the best, trying to keep cool in Solano County. I know. What's the temperature going to be in Solano County today? A big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the super stickers, super chats. We are crowd funded, so appreciate every little bit of help. Kim has made it onto the playing field, everybody. I know. I'm loving it. We'll get some updates from Kim, then Friday Fabulous Florida next. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Good morning. I'm Kim McAllister on the Mark Thompson Show. And as Mark has been mentioning, Yes, California now in the global spotlight as Hollywood shuts down for the first time in 6 decades. Movie and TV actors are joining writers on the picket lines today after the National Board voted to issue a strike. It is also their first walkout since 1980. SAG-AFTRA's contract was initially set to expire June 30th, but extended to continue contract talks with studios and streaming services. The movie halts production across the entertainment industry. Speaking of which, at least one production that we know of, and here's a photo from the filming of Deadpool 3. It has been the movie has halted production. They are stopping production due to the SAG-AFTRA strike. The superhero movie starring Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds released photos earlier this week in a behind-the-scenes look. Well, it looks like that's all we're going to see for quite some time. The Actors Union, again, officially joining the Writers Guild of America on strike. It is unknown if this film will be able to meet its scheduled release date of May 3rd, 2024.
Yeah, but now you're up against what, Kim? You're up against other calendar commitments that actors have, that directors have. There are so many people that go into making a movie, of course, and they all have calendars and commitments that extend out over the next, couple of years. I mean, now everything's on hold. But the other thing that's on hold, and this is make me think of it when you show this picture, is publicity. Yeah. I mean, that's a publicity picture. They're trying to build kind of a little rumble in anticipation of the next Deadpool movie. And last night, the actors literally walked off the red carpet and out of the premiere for, what was that? The Matt Damon movie. Was it Oppenheimer, I think?
Oh.
Anybody? Who are you people? Can I get a little help?
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
I can't believe it. I got how many more people do I have to have working on this show? Don't interrupt me when I'm yelling at you. Why can't I get a little help around here?
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
It was Oppenheimer.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Dear Lord.
They walked off the red carpet and out of the premiere of Oppenheimer, and that's what's going to happen. Actors are being told, no promotion, no entertainment tonight, no premieres, nothing. Either you're on the picket line or you're at home. That's what people are being told who are in the acting community.
Well, let's go to New York now, because multiple reports say a suspect in New York's Gilgo Beach serial killings has been arrested. The remains of at least 10 female prostitutes in their 20s found on Long Island along or near Gilgo Beach since 2010. Well, now New York police say they have made possibly an arrest, and they will bring us more information later in the day. There is this brutal heat wave affecting millions of Americans from the West Coast to the Gulf Coast. Today, the National Weather Service issued heat warnings and advisories for more than 90 million people. The temperature is expected to reach anywhere from 105 to 115 from the Great Valley of California to the desert Southwest. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy calling plans for by some progressives to boycott the Israeli president's speech before Congress next week anti-Semitic. McCarthy called it unfortunate, adding anti-Semitism shouldn't be anywhere, especially inside Congress. Progressive House members, including New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar, announced they will not attend the Israeli president's address to a joint session of Congress July 19th. The lawmakers are opposed to Israel's human rights record regarding the Palestinians. So this
look, I understand that, but I also wonder, there's so many there's such hypocrisy about what they'll attend and what they won't. Modi was just here, I didn't see necessarily the pushback on the Indian leader Modi, who is, I think, a no champion of human rights. The Saudis in the same category. I don't know. I always think that this is not to condone anything in the way of leadership in Israel, but I definitely feel as though it's an odd spin of the wheel as to when they stand up and when they push back. So I think American Congress people, there's a lot of virtue signaling going on all the time. And even McCarthy's response in calling it anti-Semitic is virtue signaling to a degree, but it's all politicized. Sorry.
No, please. A former Secret Service agent says the White House should have separate entrances for staff and tours. This coming after the cocaine issue at the White House. Evie Pompouris telling CNN on Thursday that she's really not surprised about this bag of cocaine being found in a White House storage cubby. She says background checks on tour participants can sometimes flag arrest warrants, and she never thought the White House tours were a good idea anyway. But at least they should have them come the tour people coming in a separate door than everybody else. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the name Evie Pompouris does sound like it's from an animated film, doesn't it? It's a great name, Evie Pompouris. I think that's so. Bravo on the name. Yeah, thank you. Very, very good.
A Republican congressman is apologizing for using the term "colored people" on the House floor yesterday.
God.
It says, what year is it? Yeah. Arizona Representative Eli Crane, during a heated debate with Ohio Democrat Joyce Beatty, who is a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. The debate was related to an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act in which he said colored people. Yeah, he says now, my bad, I'm sorry. Okay. And lastly, I don't know if we can get a picture up of this, Albert, but this is a new bug for Southern California. Congratulations. This ferocious looking creature with a lot of teeth and 486 legs has been discovered in Southern California. The newly named Los Angeles thread millipede is white with a green tint, translucent, has a frightening shaped head, and glows in the dark.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah.
Scientists say there's nothing to worry about. What? What do you mean there's nothing to worry about? It is as thin as a piece of sewing thread, about an inch long. They live in the soil, weaving around, looking for food. The newly discovered invertebrate is related to lobsters, and it joins 12,000 other millipede species that were previously known to scientists. There he is.
Wow.
The thread millipede. Los Angeles
invertebrate is
millipede.
a dang word, by the way.
Yeah, you got a new bug, you guys.
So it's not dangerous. You're just saying it's newly discovered?
Well, I don't want it on me.
But I mean, they don't say that it's not a poisonous bug. It's not like the killer bees or whatever, right?
Okay, let me just say this again. It has a lot of teeth.
Yeah, they're tiny, tiny teeth, though.
And 486 legs, which means he moves fast. This guy.
Right.
He has a frightening.
You and the media trying to scare us.
I'm just saying. I mean, I don't want it in my neighborhood. It glows in the dark, so I guess you can see it coming. But scientists, yes, they say there's nothing to worry about.
Oh, that's good. Because I got a lot. My worry board is completely full. So thank you.
I mean, you got to add this to your list, I guess. I don't know. If you see it, though, now you'll know what it is. And if you see something glowing in the dark, you'll go, oh, that's the Los Angeles thread millipede. That's new. Welcome to the neighborhood, fellow. Yeah.
No.
All right. Well,
I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow Stevens.
Say ladies and gentlemen
this
a lot
is the Mark
show.
Thompson Show.
Right.
Keep it to yourself.
Never say ladies and gentlemen too much.
Use Mark Thompson.
I don't know. We are having our great Friday party. Glad you could be part of things. Smash the like button if you haven't already. It's a little thing, costs you nothing.
With your iron rod.
We are a crowd-supported show. Came here as refugees from AM Talk Radio. I think there are going to be a lot of refugees from AM Talk Radio. I'm glad I could get onto the lifeboat.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Ahead of some other people, right? But we did come from a legendary radio station. So we moved this show to YouTube. If you're new, thank you. Many of you are new because you've pushed over 12,000 subscribers. That just happened this week, and I think it's largely the result of KFI Radio in Southern California, where we gave it a mention, and a lot of our KFI pals jumped on board. So thank you very much to all of you. You can support us on an ongoing basis. Going to our website is themarkthompsonshow.com. It's not much of a website. It's kind of a splash page, but it has linked through that page to Patreon and to PayPal, also to this broadcast. Again, it's themarkthompsonshow.com. Now, I want to ask a producer question, so I will do it now. Albert, would you like to go directly to Florida now? We'll welcome in John Daly if we do that. Or would you like me to... Oh, it's late. Never mind. We have to go directly to Florida, don't we?
Yes, we
sorry
got to go
about
to
that.
Florida.
All right, let me...
The Mark Thompson Show.
On Fridays, we do like to feature news from the Sunshine State. But before we do, we welcome our pal, former fabulous producer John Daly. He's still fabulous, but he's not producing anymore. That's what we
lady,
call him.
gentlemen.
Yes, we do say ladies and gentlemen, I've noticed. It just occurred to me that we say it a lot.
Now, Mark, before we get going, as a SAG-AFTRA member, such as yourself.
Oh,
and, Kim,
wow. Yeah.
I voted for the strike, so I'm curious if you guys voted for the strike.
It was not, I don't believe my contract was affected. And as a result, I don't remember whether I even saw a ballot, to be honest.
Asked.
I was asked.
You were? Well,
Yeah.
if you were, then I would have been.
What's that supposed to mean?
I mean, you know who I am.
Kind of a big deal.
So I'm looking at the strike order right now, and I have a question. If you
Yes, of course, please.
Is this show covered by the low budget theatrical agreement? Or
no,
or is it covered by the ultra low budget agreement? Because if so, I'm gonna have to kindly log off.
We would be, I think, if we were covered by any agreement, it would be the ultra low budget. So that we need several other ultras there before we can actually be covered by the agreement. Okay. You're in the clear, is the bottom line, John.
Okay.
You're not.
I don't want to
running
cross any
afoul.
picket lines.
No, you do not need to worry. I think you're in good shape. By the way, quick shout out. How about it to Rayanne Eisenreich for $20? Come on, Rayanne.
Shout out.
Rayanne, I thank you so much. Really, really cool, Rayanne. I give you a
big shout out.
Another big shout out. Never have too many big shout outs.
Look at you keeping track of the super stickers.
I like to give them now like a little love right away because we appreciate
I heard
it.
your anonymous drama yesterday. So
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm going to develop an app for you. And this is what I'm going to call it. The Electronic Patreon Outfield Chat Harvester or Epoch for short.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. We did have a little disagreement. It's funny. John's referring to me. You missed it. We were discussing just on the Epoch thing. EPOCH. I say Epoch. That's the way the word is said. And apparently either Epoch or Epoch. You can say Epoch. But Epic is not Kim, acceptable.
Epic. It's puck, like a hockey puck.
Yeah, puck.
Epic.
Right. Epoch.
Yeah.
Epoch. Right.
Yeah.
So Epoch is okay, and
Epic.
Epoch is okay. Either is acceptable in America, but to be fair to Kim, which it pains me to do, Epoch is the British, really, the way the Brits say it. So
That's on brand for you.
Yeah, it is.
yes, I believe there's a certain sense of sophistication people have grown to expect from me, frankly. We like to look at the Sunshine State on Fridays. They always serve up the weird, the wonderful, sometimes the sad. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
Into Friday Fabulous Florida with word of a huge, in fact, a record-breakingly huge, 19-foot long Burmese python, everyone. I mean, this is an immense creature. The Florida duo known as the Glades Boys, I guess named for the Everglades,
You know them.
have captured the state's longest ever recorded Burmese python, measuring 19 feet. It weighs 125 pounds. Remember, Burmese pythons are an invasive species. They are not native to Florida. They're there because somebody, brought a snake years ago, and now there's a huge infestation. Not easy to wrestle. We're showing it to you now. The wrestling of this 19
I'm sure the python thinks they're an invasive species.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the python's fault.
The bros.
He's 22, Jake Walleri.
Did they
and
kill
he
it?
found the snake in Big Cypress National Preserve. It, they say, could drape across 4 adults with room to spare. Giant is an understatement for this beast, he said. She clocks in at 19 feet flat and 125 pounds. The Conservancy of Southwest Florida, as a local nonprofit, confirmed the size of the snake, saying it's officially the longest ever documented. Previous longest Burmese python was 18 feet and 9 inches.
So they've never seen anything like this.
There's never been anything like this.
Well, there you go. Right on brand, Albert. Thank you. I believe that this animal will... They say, that these pythons pose a significant threat, to use their words, to other wildlife in the state. They eat mammals, birds, and even alligators. They have few natural predators aside from humans. Because of this risk, the state has recommended that the snakes be caught and humanely killed.
Oh.
Well, I don't really want to discuss the killing so much. It kind of takes away from the other aspects of it. But the point is, this is the biggest. Albert, thank you for finding it. It didn't make my reptile radar.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah, so very well done. A sinkhole that has swallowed a Florida man is not only a killer sinkhole, but it's killed before.
What?
That's right. Oh, thank you.
Double what?
Can't they put a piece of plywood over it? No?
Kim, if it really has its mind set on killing people, you think a piece of plywood is going to stop it?
No.
It's just going to eat that.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark, you're muted.
Yeah, I don't know how you got muted, Mark.
A stroke.
Thank you.
And you're back.
And now I'm back. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
There is a sinkhole that reopened after it was declared safe, this site, since 2013. Let's read on. It's happening in Hillsborough County.
Oh.
County officials say they get a call around 4:30 in the afternoon this week that the sinkhole had reopened.
We're back in business, baby.
Grand reopening.
There's never been anything like this.
The sinkhole opened underneath a home.
Wait, is it moving?
Back in 2013.
Oh, okay.
It swallowed up Jeffrey Bush. He was asleep in his bedroom at the time.
Oh, how awful.
His brother, Jeremy Bush, tried desperately to save him, but was unable to. Rescue crews never recovered his body.
This is sounding paranormal.
How deep is the sinkhole?
I know.
Wow.
But then this sinkhole is reopened. Am I right, Albert? The same sinkhole.
The house has been demolished and the sinkhole has reopened. It looks like a memorial. I'm pulling.
Well, the sinkhole took care of that part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just reopened. It's just like a memorial. They have like a thing. It's gated off, and then just now there's an enormous hole again. And then
look at that.
There are several ways, apparently, to fill a sinkhole. One of the ways is with gravel and liquid, which is flexible, and if there's a recurrence, it will recur at that point. The depression that produces it in the earth isn't going to find another place to try and meander, said one expert. It will stay right there. It's the easiest point of attack. So that's really the best situation. This is a quote. That's the best situation in this scenario. We can actually control when and if there is a recurrence. Well, if that's so true, then how come this thing just recurred? Maybe they knew it was going to. It's something out of all of our control. This is Mother Nature. This isn't a man-made scenario, he says. But we do have a plan in place. Well, that's nice.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Yeah, we have the right experts in place, he says. That's a quote. This is under control. He said that again.
Yeah, famous last words.
Like ladies and gentlemen, this is under control. Yeah. There's a reason why they are double fencing the area around it. Yeah. There's a reason this place.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Okay, there you go. Anyway, the reopening of that sinkhole has happened in Florida. If you're watching on YouTube, you see a picture of it. A Florida man is attacked by a 7-foot alligator. He's on a morning walk. And in Naples, Florida, the alligator attacks. According to Collier County sheriffs, the man was walking in the Forest Glen and golf course community shortly after 5 a.m. Well, I got mad respect for you if you're up at 5 a.m. taking a walk. Apparently that same respect is not afforded you by the alligator who came up and bit him in the leg.
Oh.
The first deputy on the scene provided first aid. Second deputy had the eyes on the gator. To tell a trapper where it was located, investigators say the trapper safely captured the reptile, which was a female measuring 6 feet 9 inches. Removed
right now it's
her.
mating season, and they're hungry.
It actually literally does say it is alligator mating season.
Oh, and they are indeed hungry.
And Florida residents are encouraged to be cautious around bodies of water.
That's real. She's trying to feed her babies. Come on.
Yeah.
Or she's working her corner.
She's last thing I want to say about alligators, because this is what Florida Fish and Wildlife say, that serious injuries caused by alligators are pretty rare in Florida, even though we report on them here like they happen all the time.
Yeah, except on the edge of lakes with little dogs.
Yeah, tell that to the guy who was walking at 5 a.m. A man scalloping on Crystal River almost loses his legs in a hit-and-run boat crash.
Oh.
It was supposed to be a family vacation for the 4th of July, Kim. Instead, it turned ugly. Nicole Burko and her boyfriend, Jason, they were diving for scallops on vacation near Crystal River. You know where that is, John?
Well, it's funny because crystal is slang for meth, so I'm pretty sure I know where that is.
Well, that could be. Throw a dart and you'll find it. The boat was fast. They could hear the engine roaring, coming toward them. I was clinging to the bottom, she said. Then I hear the engine cut to a neutral. The pitch and the roaring of the engine, it was nothing like I'd ever experienced.
We've never seen anything like it.
I was waiting for Albert.
There's never been anything like this.
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
All right.
Nobody has ever put something like this together.
Okay, let's not go nuts.
We've never seen anything
okay,
like
really?
it before.
All right. In any case, the Nicole Burko and her boyfriend Jason, again, the people who were scalloping, they tried to dive under the water when they saw the boat coming. It was coming right at their boat.
Whoa.
But the other boat was too fast.
Sounds like a Bond movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It is a Bond-like stunt. The propeller severely cut the legs and feet of Jason.
Yeah.
Initially, the pain and trauma and the blood. He wasn't sure whether he was going to live or die, or even if he had legs or feet anymore, she says. The way he was screaming, I mean, I think everybody who was there thought he'd lost his legs. Well, they had a dive flag up. They said that they had marked their position. There's no excuse for this. They followed all of the,
we have processes and protocols and standards.
Yeah. He's badly
they
mangled.
Do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
But he is expected to survive. But let me just say this. They don't know who was operating the other boat, Kim. This is a hit and run.
Maybe it was an alligator.
Well, I'm sure that
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
100% alcohol is involved.
A drunk alligator.
That's why they split. Yeah. A Florida man is arrested after allegedly throwing an explosive into a home. This is from Volusia County, Florida.
What?
Yeah.
He allegedly was throwing an explosive into a Deltona residence last month. Jason Smith is his name, 25. He faces charges of possession of a firebomb and first-degree arson. There were people
I like that
in the
that's a
house.
law.
Yeah.
I like that there's a firebomb law.
Yeah, they have it in Florida. You've got to really have a lot of specifics. Deputies responded to a call about an explosion at this residence. They found explosive material attached to a glass Don Julio bottle with an accelerant. Accelerant is a ding word. That was lit and then thrown into the window of the house. So isn't that a Molotov cocktail, right?
Right.
More
in
or
a
less.
Don Julio bottle.
Yeah, it's a very
Yeah,
classy.
it's very high end. Right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, all right.
I'm sure Don Julio's like, nice, thank you.
Yeah. Next
Who wants
time,
shots?
maybe just a bottle of Don Julio, not so much the accelerant, if you can do it next time. Based on witness statements, an unidentified man ran toward the victim's house, threw the explosive at a window, and then ran back to a silver Mercedes. Wow, the high end.
Yeah.
The whole thing's very high end.
Yeah.
After further investigations, detectives finding that the Mercedes was in the vicinity of the incident 14 minutes prior to it happening. They also said the driving time is consistent with how it would have taken this certain amount of time, distance from this guy's home. You know, when they ran the plates on the Mercedes, etc. They established the vehicle owner. They run the amount of time it would have taken for him to make it, blah, blah, blah. You know, carry the 5 and you're under arrest. All right.
Maybe they were filming like a Florida Mercedes ad.
Yeah, they... on brand.
Yeah.
When you absolutely have to have a getaway car that goes really
you
fast.
need something dependable.
Yeah.
Mercedes will never let you down. With the evidence found, detectives arrested Smith, took him to the Volusia Branch County Jail. He's being held there on $200,000 bond. So, a Japanese steakhouse in Florida closes.
Why?
Customers allege meth poisoning, everyone. Wow.
Food?
Not on the menu. But apparently a Japanese steakhouse is closing. 7 people said they were poisoned with meth. They were eating at one of the restaurant's hibachi tables. And Santa Rosa County Sheriff's...
that was meth poisoning, though. You'd have to have like a point of reference, right?
This feels like meth.
That feels, I'm sure, like something. Then they complain. And through their attorney, they announced that they had tested positive for meth. And were seeking answers, I should say, as to how it happened.
That could have been a coincidence. I mean, it is Florida.
You think that, yeah, could be. You're saying they all could be meth heads, sort of.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe they all got that bad meth on the same street corner and then went to have steak. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't test positive for our meth. We test positive for some different meth.
MSG doesn't sound so bad now, does it?
Yeah, the sheriff's office closed the case without making an arrest because of the lack of evidence into how the 7 people were poisoned. So a lot of the same questions you have, they have. But after more than 10 years of serving the community, the Nikko Japanese Steakhouse is going away. Sad.
Or maybe it was a rival restaurant owner.
Oh, I see. Wow, that's
yeah.
Wow, that's a real
meth caper.
I like that you have a narrative. But a Florida man is arrested after deputies recovered 88 grams of cocaine and a false ID.
Oh, well, that seems normal.
A Florida man arrested. Deputies found 88 grams of coke, $4,069 in cash, and a false ID.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
88 grams of coke, $4,069 in cash, and a false ID. Omar Feliciano, 42 years old, his whole life ahead of him. Sad. Facing a slew of charges, including possession of narcotics, intent to distribute, possession of fraudulent Puerto Rican ID. Wow. He's got a lot.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Okay, possession of narcotics, intent to distribute, possession of fraudulent Puerto Rican ID.
He
also got
that he's
he does. He actually looks happy. This Albert is right about this.
Or just coked out of his mind.
Yeah, could be. Either way, you're happy. It might be medically induced, or but you're clearly right. And finally, and perhaps a favorite, there is this. A Florida man has been arrested. He hit cars with a tire iron and ultimately throws a barbecue grill at deputies to stick the landing in this road rage incident. Yeah. Brevard County, I think barbecue grill throwing should be, not an Olympic event, but those strongman events where they throw different stuff.
A 4th of July contest in Florida.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking of. There
so
you
did
go.
he have a grill in the passenger
barbecue for them, right?
What's that? What's that, Albert?
Who wouldn't like anybody throwing a barbecue?
So was this in the passenger seat, or did he stop and go in the back? Where
these are good questions. The Chevy Tahoe, is a gray Chevy Tahoe, was parked in the middle of the road, and then it began ramming vehicles as drivers tried to go around. Okay, the Chevy Tahoe is occupied by our pal, the guy who's at the center of this entire thing. He was armed with a nail gun, apparently, and was threatening people at the scene. Deputies arrive.
What can you tell us
about the scene? I can tell you that he's threatening people with a nail gun, Larry.
What can you tell us about the scene?
Deputies arrived on the scene.
What can you tell us about the scene?
They said they found him armed with a crowbar. When given commands to drop the crowbar, deputies said that he said, "You'll have to kill me." Hoffman, who is the name, that's the name of the dude. I don't know what his first name is. Hoffman is his last name. Threw the crowbar and started to run away from the deputies. This is great. This isn't Sheriff Grady, but it's a Sheriff Grady thing that the other sheriff said. He apparently did not get the memo that if you run from Brevard County deputies, you're only going to jail.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Right.
I think they're using a template now.
They are.
Sent out.
Grady statements.
Yeah.
Where is the barbecue, though, Albert? I don't see it.
I thought it was thrown early on,
Do you see it in there? Deputy said he hit cars with a tire iron and threw a barbecue grill at them in a road rage.
Well, it is Florida, so maybe he was, grilling some,
I just would love to know. He must have had the barbecue grill in the bed of his truck. Is that what it was?
Yeah, there's no details in this. We just have to trust the headline here, Mark.
Okay. All right. Well,
Albert, thank you.
They don't ask a lot of questions in Florida. They're like, yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. All right. Now, how do we do this, Albert? I've forgotten. Do we pick a favorite before I close out the segment, or do we pick a favorite and then I close out the segment? And you have a poll going on YouTube, don't you?
1,000.
2
Albert,
1,000.
thank you.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was on. No, yeah, we'll hit the close. I had the poll up right now.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So, but the question to you was, sir, as the format, do we now pick a favorite, or do we hit the close and then pick a favorite after the close?
No, I'll hit the close now, and then we'll talk about the favorites after.
All right, very good. So with that barbecue throw, and by the way, if you want to see the guy and the offending vehicle, and maybe get a glimpse of the barbecue, it is on our YouTube channel for podcast listeners. That is Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
I don't know why we don't pick a favorite before the close. Can you explain that to me before we pick a favorite? Why is that, Albert? I know you probably reflected on it and made this decision after quiet reflection. You probably listened to past segments where we've done it one way and done it another way.
I wanted to switch it up this time, Mark.
Okay.
Albert, thank you.
Okay. I think Albert regrets it. I think, let's be honest, Albert, you feel like we should have picked a favorite before we hit the close. Don't you feel that way?
I kind of, now I'm thinking about it, yeah.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
I know my Albert. You can say
the Asian American community.
You should apologize to all those communities. Anyway, we are still picking a favorite, though. Look, it's like picking between kids. We don't want to, but we have to.
Yeah.
So here you go. I'll review for you the contenders. 19-foot Burmese python, record and apprehended. Sinkhole that swallowed a Florida dude while he slept, killed him. It's reopened now. A Florida man attacked by a 7-foot alligator at 5 a.m. as he took a walk. A man scalloping with his girlfriend on the Crystal River almost loses a leg in a hit-and-run boat crash. The dude throwing explosives into a home with a Don Julio bottle that's filled with accelerant. The Japanese steakhouse in Florida has to close. 7 customers allege meth poisoning. The Florida man arrested after deputies recover 88 grams of cocaine.
My bad. I'm sorry.
And an official ID. And the Florida dude who hits cars with tire irons and then throws a barbecue grill at deputies.
Why are you yelling?
We have to pick one. I ask you what your favorite is, please, John Daly.
Well, I have to give a big shout out to Albert. This is a very rich offering this week. You know, I do like the sinkhole. That kind of speaks to me. But as a former bartender, I have to go with the classy firebomb. Julio.
Classy firebomb.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's like at least $200 worth of a bottle that he just
It's
yeah, high-end firebomb. Exactly. How about you, Albert? What's your favorite, please?
Again, I'd like to take John Daly's praise, but also shout out Florida because Florida's the one who keeps it's a gift
never
that
disappoints.
Keeps on giving. Yep.
Yeah.
I kind of like the meth poisoning at the steakhouse. It's just bizarre. It's a bizarre headline. You know, I'm scrolling through. I'm researching Florida. I see meth and actually this was actually sent to us too. I found this when I was researching, and I think somebody emailed it to the show. So special shout out.
Oh, that's very cool.
To the person I can't remember, but thank you for sending that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. And Kim, how about you?
You know, I loved the video of the snake wrestler. I loved the picture of the alligator, but I have to agree with Albert on this one. I'm going with the I've never heard of meth poisoning at a restaurant before, so I'm going with the meth at the steakhouse.
No? All
Well,
right.
Florida is a state. It's a state of innovation, really.
I am also overwhelmed by this barrage of brilliance out of Florida.
Alliteration.
I think I like 88 grams of cocaine, a false ID, to be honest. That's kind of ringing my bell, but so is the crazy road rage dude.
That's pretty Florida.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going with the cocaine guy. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know it's not all right.
I'm sure he's happy that you picked him too, Mark. He's very happy.
Like they're up for an award. Is it coke?
Somewhere
Is
in
it
Florida?
meth?
There's so many people to thank.
Yeah.
John, let's do this again next week. Thank
Fabulous
you.
producer.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah. Have a good one. John Daly, everyone. Yeah. And Albert, very well done on another successful Florida run. We're going to, as we often do on Fridays, we'll take a little break. We'll do a supersized news bottom of the hour. We'll get to Avila right away, if that's okay with you, Kim.
Yeah, please.
And
love me some Jim Avila.
And and we've got a lot to talk about with Avila. Smash the like button like a boss, if you would, please. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Yeah. It is our Friday show. On Fridays, we like to look at the week and look at what's going on in politics, in news of all sorts. We do it with a guy who is quite extraordinary in what he's covered. He's an award-winning journalist. You've heard before, all of his awards, from the Peabodys to the Edward R. Murrow Awards. He was the senior correspondent at ABC News and longtime White House correspondent as well at ABC. How about it for Jim Avila, everybody?
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Good morning, sir. I'm well. It is great to have you in the mix. I was watching.
Good to be here.
I was watching with some interest the theater of BS that is these congressional hearings on the Justice Department and the weaponization of them. I mean, it's utter theater, utter crap. I mean, and an utter waste of taxpayer
Shouldn't
money.
They be
I
on
might
strike?
add. Yeah, right.
I mean,
Thank you. They are actors.
This whole acting thing is. And let me just say before we get started that Fran Drescher has done Drescher has done a great job. It was a great speech yesterday. I've been a member of AFTRA since for 45 years. Not always the strongest of unions, but has always had a great pension plan and a health plan. But what they're standing up for right now is very important to the actors, especially. And she seems to be doing pretty well. And I watched. It's a little bit political, so I'll get into it just a moment. I watched Bob Iger, my former boss at Disney, claim that they were out of touch. This is the guy who made $170 million as a CEO, and he's telling me that actors are out of touch, writers are out of touch. That's ridiculous. And these CEOs who run these places, like Warner and all these other, and Disney and Universal, are making huge amounts of money, and their streaming stuff is profitable, even though they won't allow us to see what the profits are. And they're really trying to take advantage and set the industry back as far as creativity is concerned. So there's my stance on that.
I love that you mentioned it because it's actually a huge story, and it's a huge story for labor. And it's a huge story for labor with a lot of the threads that run through a lot of other labor negotiations. We were talking about AI and we're talking about robotics in relation to the supply chain. We had an international supply chain expert on a couple of weeks ago about that. So there are other unions, I guess, that I'm dealing with in other conversations that are facing many of the same things. And you make a good point, and I'll just even make a finer point on your point, which is that Iger and others have spoken about the essential aspect of freezing out the union at this moment in time. In other words, we all know this is an inflection moment. We talked about how the industry has changed. We did a 20 minutes at the beginning of the show, and you can go back and actually hear it if you want. But I think most of us are aware that.
Hear it.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. And but the point is simply that at this key moment, it's very possible, and they've spoken about this. I mean, there are all of these different leaked, both memos and conversations that relate to, we can wait them out. The writers and actors don't have the money for a long strike, and we can wait them out. And the idea somehow that these studios are hurting, as you say, is ridiculous. Look, Apple, what is it? It's a $2.5 trillion company. I mean,
right.
That's rich, man.
And Bezos owns Prime Video.
Yeah, I mean, please. I mean, I don't see why it's an unreasonable request at all to allow profit sharing within this model. So, There's something else going on, Jim. They passed this defense bill, and in this defense bill is a glimpse of, I guess, the only thing that's talked about now, which is sort of the wokeness of the left and how we have to dry clean the wokeness of the left from every bill. So this House partisan defense bill that would limit abortion access and transgender care and diversity training for military personnel, that passes, then that goes to the Senate, right? And that's where it will. I mean, and there's a. It's not just woke stuff. That's just the stuff I'm talking about that they flagged. I mean, it's a raise for troops. It's all this money for weapon systems, etc. Give me the state of the state on that. What will happen? Is this just a political grandstanding moment, or will it actually have teeth?
Well, I think it's going to be, it's another situation where, fortunately, let me just say fortunately first off, most people don't watch what goes on in Congress on a day-to-day basis. Now, that's fortunate and unfortunate, of course. So what's going on now is really inside baseball a lot. The problem, of course, is what the right wants to do, and what they're attempting to do, is if you're in the Army, Marines, Air Force, Navy, whatever, and you're in a state where they don't allow abortion, which of course is in most of them, because most of our bases are really in the South. Many of them are in the South. So they're not going to. What we're doing now, our policy currently, is that we allow women in the military to move to a state where it's legal. Go get the procedure or whatever it is, their healthcare is needed, whatever healthcare is needed, and then come back and serve the rest of their term. The right doesn't want that to happen, and what they're saying is that the Hyde Amendment, which prohibits the abortion to be paid for government funds, that's what you're doing during the current policy. And so they have, in fact, put in the appropriations bill, which pays for all the military, and I have problems with that on another level. But at any rate, what they're doing is they're putting in this provision which doesn't allow them to travel. So they will. What are they going to do? They're going to have to travel on their own, and people in the military don't make much money. It's not a lucrative business. They're in there most of the time for their education and to serve their country. A lot of people go in there to get educated, and it's really not fair. So your question was, what will happen? I don't think the Senate is going to go along with this, and so there's going to be a big stare down again on who's going to blink on this. And unfortunately, McCarthy has no power whatsoever, and his right-wing folks are really still upset about the fact that they didn't shut down the government the last time, and they're going to attempt to shut down the military. And which is really, isn't it amazing? These are the guys who, wear the flags on their shoulders and claim, they're so pro-military, and yet they're going to hurt. They're hurting the people in the military. Right now, there are no raises going on. There's no promotions going on. They're really hurting the people in the military. Has it really affected our readiness? Not at this point, I don't think. Although the Democrats are trying to make that case. I think we're over ready anyway, in my opinion.
I see a couple of the comments, and we'll kind of swing around if there's time at the end, and I'll ask Jim to respond to them. This is far away from that which we've just spoken of, but yet it's around us, and that is the record heat that's enveloping the globe. This is extraordinary. The temperatures in the West over the next few days, we've seen 4 of the hottest days in recorded history. And the heat in the West could reach 130 degrees in Death Valley. And again, I understand that's one of the hottest places on Earth, but it's also something of a bellwether as that temperature gets to those extremes. Temperatures surrounding also rise. So I'm getting to a point about labor, okay? The idea somehow that we have to work outdoors in this heat, that we ask people to work outdoors through the summer. There are no protections in place for this new normal, as it's called, or new abnormal, as it's called, whatever. It feels as though we get distracted with this stuff as voters. The wokeness and all that crap that we were just talking about in relation to congressional conversations. But there are real lives of real people affected, and now real workers affected by being asked to work in that insane heat, which we're likely to see continue on into, as long as we're here. It's the planet's only getting hotter.
Yeah, and I think the point you're trying to make here is that we're not focused on the right things in Congress. And if you have been watching in any way the kind of circus that's been going on recently, they had FBI Director Wray in yesterday, he's a conservative guy appointed by Trump, and he just lit them on fire. These from Jim Jordan on down, Matt Gaetz. He just ripped them apart. He said, I'm a conservative. What are you talking about? It's absurd that I would do these things, that I would go after conservatives like you say I am, or like the FBI is. This, and then of course the other thing that they're doing with this phony whistleblower, who's actually a spy for the Chinese and actually an arms dealer. And they're claiming now, of course, that he was arrested because he was going to talk about the Biden quote unquote crime family. Well, the truth is that he was arrested back in October, before any of this happened, and while the Republicans had not even raised any of this, and he had nothing. He didn't start complaining until after they arrested him. And then he suddenly had all these things about Biden. So, and he works for the Chinese government. So, they're wasting all their time. They're wasting all this money. And there are real serious things that could be done. You're right. There is no law. There's a big article in the New York Times today about how there's no law protecting workers from employers who make them work out in the heat. It's not illegal. So could something be done there? There's lots of real policy issues out there that need to be addressed, including, there should have been, and we wasted a lot of time, there should have been some kind of abortion law passed in the House and the Senate that would have prevented all of this. So, it is a bunch of theater. They are actors. I even don't even want to mention their names of the people who were doing this because that's all they want. They want to be in the conversation. And MTG has not passed a bill since she's been in Congress. Nothing. Bobart, nothing. Jim Jordan, nothing. They've not proposed any kind of legislation whatsoever. It's really a shame what they've done to Congress.
Well, and I like that you bring it all together, because this is a body that could be protecting Americans, protecting workers from the heat, as I say, or at least providing certain safeguards for many of these workers that we need, and infrastructure that has suffered enormously. Biden got that huge infrastructure plan through, and infrastructure suffers under these extreme temperature variations and in this, again, new normal that is this planet. These are things that legislators, that lawmakers have to deal with. Instead, it's a bunch of flag waving and virtue signaling.
Yeah, and you talk about what these people are doing out there. It's time after time after time. They just have one absurd idea after another, and it's one fight after another. The only thing there was a good thing that happened this week and is in the news today, which is kind of surprising to me, which is that fundraising by Joe Biden outpaced both DeSantis and Trump. That despite the fact that there are some misgivings, including in this room, about whether or not Joe Biden is the best candidate because of his age, apparently the donor class is right behind him, and they have given him all kinds of money to work with. And so that is a good sign for the Democrats. That always, money means enthusiasm in many cases. And in this case, it does appear as though there's enthusiasm for Joe Biden. He had another good week, overseas, where he held the coalition together. He's making Putin look like a fool. Putin got into this war one of the reasons was to try to divide and make NATO weaker. Instead, he's done the opposite. NATO has added 2 new, very strong right on his border nations in Sweden and Finland. He kept everybody together despite the controversial cluster bomb issue and despite the controversial whether Ukraine should become a member of NATO. But they all stayed together, and they're a solid front. And Russia's going to have problems if they attempt to continue to expand into the other countries around them. And that's the purpose of NATO. And he continues to make it strong.
And NATO does appear strong, and I guess the expansion of NATO now. I mean, there's a lot of NATO. Even I would have put Ukraine in this category. That's sort of de facto. You have de facto membership, although clearly the contractual relationship that NATO has with signatory countries is an important one, because obviously it's an attack on one NATO country is an attack on all of them, and it would really involve NATO troops, American troops over there. You don't have that, obviously, with Ukraine. The munitions, the cluster munitions you talk about, the cluster bombs, they did go over, so that is
they're there.
Yeah, part of the arsenal there in Ukraine. I was going to read you a comment or two and have you respond.
Sure.
The low wage. People are suggesting different things to beat the heat in that kind of thing. This is everything wrong with government. They see the changes and the necessity to adapt to the change, and they act like things haven't changed. I feel like that is humanity on some level. We're just it's a slow disaster movie that we're living. That's from the Lady Beatrice.
A lot of people are convinced. I'm not, and I know you're not, that somehow we'll technology our way out of the climate crisis. I don't think that's going to happen. I think, fortunately or unfortunately, we're too old to worry about it that much. It's probably not going to end the world by the time we're gone. But our next generation is really in big trouble, and we're seeing it already. I don't know that we're going to AI ourselves out of climate change. It's serious business, and it is the existential threat to our world, as Joe Biden and as Obama said for years, and the Republicans scoff at.
Most certainly. Climate change in this Congress is not even on the agenda, Vilma says. All they want to do is investigate Hunter Biden while we welt in heat. And the other things that come from that climate change and climate crisis are associated with food inequality. When it comes to access to food, there is more and more of a gulf between those who have access and those who don't. The refugee crisis, C point A, many refugees fleeing to where they can eat. It is the world is on its side on some level, or heading that way. And we're lucky. It's always, it's just an absolute accident of birth that we have access to what we have access to in this country.
In some ways, I wish I was born in Sweden or Finland or someplace like that, where they have happy people and people who are fed and taken care of, and there's a big social net. I mean, here, the biggest problem this world, and I say this I think every week, that this world has and this country has, is income inequality. We're not going to solve homelessness. We're not going to solve any of this stuff as long as we continue to have this huge gap between what the really rich make and how much they pay in taxes and how much the poor make. I have a Trader Joe's downstairs in my building, and I went down there yesterday to pick up something.
Please don't brag on the show about your access to the media elite things you have access to.
So I walk in there, and I'm walking out, and I see a guy with a cane walking out right in front of me. And he looks a little bedraggled, and I figure he's probably a homeless guy. And I see a Trader Joe's person walking behind him. And sure enough, he had walked out without paying for some food. And I'm like, whoa, he just stole something. And then I'm thinking, yeah, he just stole something but he's hungry. And the Trader Joe's person went outside and said, "Are you going to pay for that?" And he just kept walking. And they didn't do anything because they can't do anything anymore. It is happening so often because they've had to resort to this, that stores cannot even enforce shoplifting rules anymore. It's just, it's too dangerous, and there's too many. They'd spend all their money on enforcement. So a guy gets a handful of whatever he took and walks away. And it's happening everywhere. I mean, Starbucks, they won't stop people. I see people going to Starbucks. They go to where they put the coffee cups, waiting for people to pick them up, and they just go and pick it up and pretend that it's theirs and walk out.
Wow.
And what do? There's not much they can do. It's just we are in such a position, of such a place, that it's really sad.
Of course, you're absolutely right. And, in major cities, we're seeing it like crazy. I mean, bands of thieves go in. I mean, you're just describing situations where it's almost it's like a Charles Dickens modern story.
Yeah.
This guy needs it, or Les Miserables. The guy needs steals half a loaf of bread. But
these organized guys who break
these
in,
organized guys
that's
are
a whole
different.
different thing. Yeah,
I went into Walgreens, not bragging, but I was at Walgreens yesterday,
there you
go. They
what
had
is
that.
It that Clarence Thomas says? He says, "Hey, I got
the Walmart,
Walmart, yeah,
Walmart parking lot." Where is Clarence Thomas? Do we have him? Yeah,
I come from regular stock.
Yeah,
I prefer the Walmart parking lots.
Yeah, I didn't see Clarence Thomas. I did see everything locked up, though. I literally just needed to get deodorant, and I had to ask the woman to come unlock the deodorant area.
And when she got close, she hustled.
All right, you can find him here on Fridays looking back at things, and you can find his column if you find it. Every Tuesday, does it drop?
Yeah, Tuesdays.
Tuesdays, the Jim Avila column on media and politics, and we'll look forward to visiting with you next week. He's the great Jim Avila, everybody. Thanks, Jim!
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, right on.
I've told you, it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How about a news break, and then the great Michael Snyder joins us. Is that cool with you, Kim? Are you standing by with the...
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Okay, and you can smash the like button in the meantime. Kim's news, and then Snyder next. Albert, are we good with this?
Yep. I'm just making sure Kim's ready. You're good to go, Kim?
Yeah, good to go. All is well.
All right.
All right, Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. Let's start with the Capitol. Mark may have mentioned this just a few moments ago, but it's the House now approving its version of the annual defense bill. The National Defense Authorization Act passed 219 to 210, with 4 Republicans voting against the bill, 4 Democrats voting for it. Passage of the measure was thrown into doubt with the addition of conservative amendments on abortion, transgender rights, and diversity and inclusion initiatives. The Biden administration is forgiving $39 billion in student debt for more than 800,000 borrowers. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona said this morning the debt relief is a result of fixes to the student loan system's income-driven repayment plans. Under those plans, borrowers get their remaining debt canceled after they've made payments for at least 20 years. About 1.5 million people may actually have an unclaimed tax refund. It seemed like you would be the first in line to pick that up, but no. The IRS says taxpayers have to file a return for their 2019 taxes by this coming Monday. The average unclaimed refund, about $900. So who knows? You might have money coming to you. About 161,000 American families with children are reported to have experienced homelessness last year. a sad situation, and goes to what Jim Avila was talking about regarding income inequality. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, some 72,000 people in families with children were experiencing homelessness in 20 of the largest cities in our nation as of January, an almost 40% jump from a year earlier. 40%. Been a lot of protests in Iowa over this new abortion law being signed. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signing the state's new fetal heartbeat bill into law this afternoon. The signing takes place at the Family Leadership Summit in Des Moines, where there will be a number of Republican presidential candidates. The bill will ban most abortions once a heartbeat can be detected. And that's really early. Often people won't even know they're pregnant. So essentially, this pretty much bans most abortions, if not all, in the state of Iowa.
Just crazy. Yeah.
We talked about the actors' strike earlier. Well, there's another strike brewing in San Jose. More than 4,000 San Jose workers on the verge of a strike. They are ready to walk out if no contract agreement is reached with the city by August 8th. They want a 7% raise this year, 6% next year, then 5%. They're also asking for 8 weeks off of family leave. The mayor believes the counteroffer is reasonable, saying it doesn't do any good to give high wages if they have to actually cut services to do it. In Oakland, there is a situation. What we have here is a situation where they're ending the eviction ban tomorrow. So
no.
Yeah.
Jeez.
What he's got going here.
That is really serious, though. Yeah.
The city started it during the pandemic to protect renters who lost their job or suffered income loss because of COVID. It means landlords can kick people out for not paying after today, even if they're still experiencing financial hardship. But there are restrictions on increasing the amount of rent, and those will be in effect until June of next year. They can't immediately jack up the rent price on these folks. OpenAI is now being investigated by the Federal Trade Commission. The FTC wants to know if this is violating consumer protection laws. The Fed's concerned about how the ChatGPT app handles personal data and the potential to give inaccurate information to users. So in come the Feds to check it all out. And Twitter is seeking $1 million in damages in a lawsuit that accuses 4 unnamed entities of something called data scraping. That is when an automated program scours publicly accessible websites to collect data. Well, the practice is generally legal after a court ruled against LinkedIn last year in a battle over whether publicly accessible data was proprietary or not. And now comes this lawsuit against Twitter for the same thing.
Wow.
Police in Southern California and social media are looking at social media, I should say, for a selfie bandit. Cops in Orange County city of Irvine say a woman was caught on video at a FedEx store casually snapping a selfie before using a fake ID to make off with someone else's packages. Police say she had
a wild idea, but it just might work.
She had pickup slips and phony ID cards to claim these packages, which contained more than $7,000 worth of jewelry.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she's described as a young Asian woman.
Little Anthony.
Oh no, it's
black
a little
hair.
Woman.
She was driving a white Mercedes SUV,
Wow.
but her face was clearly visible on the widely circulated security video. So Irvine police are hoping someone will call in.
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker,
No, it's not,
Joe Box,
it's not
and
a
Little
guy.
Anthony.
It's not a guy. It's a woman.
Krispy Kreme selling a dozen donuts for 86 cents today in honor of its birthday. Happy birthday, Krispy Kreme.
Wow.
Causing heart attacks and coronary artery disease in America for how many years? Customers who buy a dozen donuts at the regular price.
God bless America.
Yeah.
The end.
Right.
So you buy a dozen at the regular price, and you get a dozen original glazed donuts for just 86 cents. Yeah, happy birthday. The deal is also available for online delivery and pickup orders with the promo code.
Yeah. You don't want to have to waddle off of the couch to get it. You can deliver it.
Years. That's right. Get your, get your deal. And lastly, these fine folks. It's a pair of Florida twins in honor of Florida Fabulous Friday.
It's Friday Fabulous Florida, but thank you. Okay.
Indeed. They've gone viral on social media.
Tim, how are you?
Because they're both cousins and brothers.
Oh, how does that work?
Well, they call themselves the Peter twins because they share the same name. The pair said their moms are identical twin sisters and their dads are identical twin brothers. The twins say one question they get asked often is if they have the same birthday, but one Peter is 4 months younger than the other Peter, but they call themselves the Peter twins because with moms and dads that are identical twins, their DNA is, I would imagine, very similar, if not the same. So there you go. Cousins and brothers.
Man, that's wild.
There's never been anything like this.
I think it is pretty out there.
Sadly, when I typed in Peter twins, I got a lot of things I didn't really want to see.
Porn, probably.
Yeah, I didn't realize, but that's what happened. I thought, Peter twins, what could go wrong? I'm Kim McAllister.
My bad. I'm sorry.
All right.
This is the Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, thank you.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him.
Let's not make too big a deal out of it.
And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. Mark Thompson Show.
I wanted something upbeat. Beat, Albert. Don't you have anything upbeat? There you go. That's better.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I like upbeat. I like to feel up on a Friday.
My wife wants some vegetables for crudité. I was a basketball referee.
Feels great, baby.
Use Mark Thompson. It's unbelievably offensive.
What he's got going here is a situation.
I was fortunate. Everyone I worked with made me better at my job.
Oh, that sounds like
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
So much fun. I love it here. Fridays, I'll tell you, I feel so good. I'm thinking of that just staying on the air through the weekend. Just blasting away, hour after hour. The marathon. That's how I feel, Michael Snyder. That's right. I can bring it for days. There's no bottom to my energy.
Wow.
I'm a reservoir full, Michael.
Did you have meth steak? Is that what happened?
Just caught a second wind.
Were you served a meal of something that made you feel a little peppy?
I have yet to eat today, but I am looking forward to a lunch.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
How dare you? How dare you? I had a couple of items to get to, but now I just realized there's no time, so I want to get right to him. He writes a column in the Marina Times. He is a magnificent lover of movies, of television. If it streams, if you can play it on stage, he is a musicologist also. He really is the culture blaster, and that's what he calls himself across social media. For us, he comes and goes on a rainbow. How about it for Michael Snyder, everybody? Michael Snyder, the culture blaster. What about you, Michael?
Wow, I would say happy Friday, Mark, but my eyes are as glazed over as a dozen free glazed donuts from Krispy Kreme in honor of their anniversary. Oh, my God. Kim, I was just feeling the congestion in my chest hearing you deliver that news story.
It was. Yeah, that's a special. Krispy Kreme's. Here's the thing. It's easy to drive by, and it's easy not to start. But once you start, man, once you have one bite of those things, man, you can inhale a whole box.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
Well, Mark, I'm happy to see that you are on Threads. I thought that was
I am on Threads.
You know, have you heard the new rallying cry for people migrating from Twitter? Better thread than dread.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, man.
Yes, I'm very unhappy with everything I've heard today on
less
your
and
show.
less. There's so much less disinformation there for the time being, but you know, I guess we'll see.
You're on Threads, Michael?
I am.
Are you the culture blaster on Threads?
No, they wouldn't let me do that. I am Mike the Knife 123. Mike the Knife 123.
And I'm Mark Thompson TV. Yeah, they wouldn't. You have to take your Instagram handle over.
That's okay. That's okay.
All right.
We're talking about
you don't
this
seem bothered by
minutia when in fact we're worried about the entire entertainment industry. Fran Drescher.
This is an inflection moment for real, right?
The nanny herself. President of the Screen Actors Guild, she was on fire. You know, the Franny, if you will, was dead on in her speech. I'm really kind of worried about this as a writer who does, film and television projects. This is a nightmarish attempt by the suits to crush the creatives and continue to treat them like, I don't know, feudal serfs in the fields of the entertainment industry. there's got to be a change because there's been such a massive change in the delivery of all this.
Sure.
So,
And again, this is the opportunity to make that change. It's going to be a big one because there's a big change in the business. But there'll have to be that big change.
I agree. I agree. Emmy nominations this week. Very exciting to see two shows that I adore get some love, even though I have nothing but disdain for award shows in the arts. I'm still going like, yeah, The Bear, right? Give The Bear all the love. Give Jury Duty, the little show that could on Amazon Freevee, some love.
Let me ask you a question
sure.
because you have all this love for your shows.
Yes, sir.
And you're right. Award shows are ridiculous. You cannot compare. I've said it a million times. You can't compare these things. You can't say, you'd have to, well, you can't compare pieces of art and creation, like creative things like this. But my question is on categories. The Bear was entered in comedy, wasn't it?
Right, and it is a dramedy, if you will. There are a lot of great and
it's
deep
really
moments.
more drama than comedy, wouldn't you agree?
I don't know what their thoughts are in regards to this, but I do appreciate that they made a little change. John Oliver had been running away with Variety Talk Show, and they created a specific scripted variety segment that they pushed him to that. It's basically all written out, whereas the talk shows like Colbert, Seth Meyers, and Jimmy Kimmel, and boy, I miss you guys. This Writers Guild strike has eviscerated my evenings, but they
eviscerated
do
a dingler.
Spontaneous stuff, so I'm glad about that. But yeah, it's a gray area.
It's one of the problems with these award shows, and even the other you mentioned, Jury Duty.
Right.
It was mentioned. It's supposed to have all been. A lot of it's improv, and yet it goes down, it gets a writing nomination. I mean, again, I love the concept, and I really enjoyed the show, but I'm just saying that it's the idea of these award shows is flawed beyond the just overall flaw of comparing these things and awarding these things.
Yeah, well, seeing them get a little affection and attention does my heart good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's a promotion for shows that are good and deserve attention. Let's agree to that, and let's move on. All
sure.
Right.
We should talk about movies because
that is why you're here.
The giant elephant in the room that's actually a rather short leading man is
How
here
dare you
upon us.
insult Tom Cruise?
Hey, like the two recent blockbusters, Fast X and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 ends on a cliffhanger of sorts with much more story to go. Unlike those other movies, this one at least alerts you to the fact ahead of the time in the title. It's Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Wow. So no surprises there. If there's any surprise here, it's how durable this formula continues to be when well executed, and maybe there may finally be a line on Tom Cruise's face after all these years.
I mean, it's amazing. He's 61 years old.
Yeah, I
think. Check that, Albert, but I think that's right.
Google it.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, one thing is for certain, the still somewhat youthful Tom appears ever Tensel. He's Tensel Tom, doing a shocking number of his own stunts, if I'm not mistaken. The movie, which is the seventh in this very successful and entertaining Mission Impossible film franchise, is highlighted by some of the most stunning action scenes in memory, many done in practical live-action fashion, in camera, by the fearless Cruise and his compatriots. So, Cruise has been playing Ethan Hunt, head of the IMF, which is, as you may or may not know, the super secret Impossible Missions Force, in all 7 of the movies since the character was introduced in 1996's Mission Impossible, which was, by the way, inspired by the 60s espionage TV program of the same name, currently supported by trusted strategy and tech guys played by Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg, and a changing series of co-conspirators. Hunt is a master of disguise and a master of spycraft, aided by the IMF's wonderful toys. He's also tormented by losing people he cared about along the way, but that's not why you go see a Mission Impossible movie. No, you go because Cruise and company need to travel to a series of exotic locales to acquire some devastating weapon or some arcane piece of tech that in the wrong hands will destroy the world like for instance, a dangerous artificial intelligence designed to replace screenwriters or actors. That scares me.
Yeah, there you go. It's staring right at us. Yeah.
Anyway, that'll lead to dizzying or jaw-dropping stunts, furious martial arts, and death-defying escapes on land, in the sky, and even under the sea. Yeah, there's a plot here that interrupts the thrills, and it features a villain with a longtime grudge against Hunt, although there's not much dramatic weight to that. Instead, it's all about the zip-bang-boom scenes with Cruise and recurring or new co-stars who also include, this time out, Rebecca Ferguson, currently starring in the terrific Apple TV series Silo, Haley Atwell, Marvel's Agent Carter, Pom Clementif, best known as Marvel's superheroine Mantis, Vanessa Kirby, and S.A. Morales, and it's lightened by the occasional quip, look, here's something of note. Directors of various movies in the series have included A-listers John Woo, J.J. Abrams, Brad Bird, Brian De Palma, and most recently Christopher McQuarrie, and all have brought the goods. So McQuarrie is the director of record here, doing his third, let's call it cruise-controlled mission in a row, as well as co-writing this with Eric Jendrison. If it's not an all-time cinema classic, and it's not, it is 2 hours and 45 minutes of enough blocks being busted that it's going to rattle your brains in IMAX. Dude, if you asked me to choose whether I'd rather ride the Goliath or the Apocalypse at Six Flags, I'd prefer another viewing of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
Wow.
If only to rewatch a climactic fracas on top of a speeding train that trumps a similar scene from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny by virtue of the astonishing way Cruise as Hunt gets into the situation. This movie is in theaters where it should be seen.
Wow. He likes the new Mission Impossible. I heard, and I don't know about what happens in this train sequence. Are you okay? Do you need something over there? You need more volume?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Sure.
Mark, by the way, you were correct on your earlier. I Googled Tom Cruise is 61.
61. There you go. All right.
It's amazing.
He is amazing. I heard they rebuilt or built a train, an actual train for them to do that stunt with. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I don't know what the stunt is, but apparently many have remarked on it. So
I don't want to spoil it. I didn't mention a lot of the other amazing things that they do on screen here. And again, this is not great cinema, but this is, remember the Disneyland Double D ride or whatever, the high ticket at Disney.
Sure, right, D ride,
God.
yeah.
Oh my
God, it was
God.
D ticket or whatever,
Yeah.
E-ticket.
D-ticket. That's what this is, you know. And when you're sitting in your seat in the theater, you are immersed in this craziness on screen. I guess if they actually wrote great scripts to these movies, there would be no stopping them. But as it stands, these are... Anyway, time to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, change it up.
I want to review a movie made for a considerably lower budget than the zillion-dollar cost of a Mission Impossible, making the lean and likable indie ensemble comedy Theater Camp probably cost as much as, I don't know, the lifts in Tom Cruise's shoes.
Wow, again, it's two cracks about how Tom Cruise is kind of on the short
I'm not
side.
a tall man. I'm 5'9.5".
Right,
Come on.
so yeah.
Yeah. I feel a certain
You have to say and a
brotherhood
half,
with him.
then you really know you're not.
Yeah, I know. I'm pledging a little bit. So some of us have been to summer camp. Many of us have been to the theater or watched a musical on stage or screen, and there are those among us who have even watched the Emmy Awards. Whether you have or haven't done any of the above, there's plenty to make you laugh in Theater Camp, which concerns the doings at a ramshackle but beloved upstate New York summer camp for aspiring young performers. So summer sees the return to camp of Amos and Rebecca Diane, two BFFs and drama teachers played by Ben Platt, and he's the guy who originated the title role in the Broadway hit Dear Evan Hansen, and Molly Gordon, currently breaking hearts, she's broken my heart, as a supporting player in the cast of The Bear. The longtime owner and operator of the camp is out of commission, leaving the place in the hands of her dim-witted son, who kind of fancies himself as an expert businessman. Spoiler alert, he is not. Meanwhile, long-suffering camp production manager Glenn, played by another Broadway star, Noah Galvin, secretly longs for the spotlight. And as the camp faces foreclosure, the dedicated staff and the campers are going to need to bond together and put on a big end-of-season show that will somehow save the day. Aha. Led by Platt, Gordon, and Galvin, the cast members hit their marks with style and panache or goofy charm. There are comedy veterans Amy Sedaris and Caroline Aaron, and up-and-comers including recent Emmy nominee Ayo Edebiri from The Bear, Patty Harrison and Jimmy Tatro, and a bunch of kids that kind of embody that mini showbiz wannabe thing. You know, they're out there. They crave the spotlight. You know what I'm saying? And there are a handful of witty and catchy original songs written for the movie, especially a climactic number that I thought really pops. So Theater Camp was co-directed by Gordon and Nick Lieberman, who also collaborated on the script with Platt and Galvin. I would wager all of them were, at one time, theater kids who dreamed of the lives that they're leading today, because their love of performing and their affection for the gaggle of striving campers is evident throughout the funny and winsome Theater Camp. It's in theaters.
Panache and winsome, I think, is a ding word. Okay.
You know, winsome, loosome.
Okay. What else you have?
What else do I have? You know, I have something else which I had so much, enthusiasm for going in, bursting with masterpiece theater vibes and boasting award-winning actresses in significant roles and solid support from the rest of the actors involved. The Miracle Club is an inoffensive trifle of a period dramedy that too often relies on kind of eye-rolling cliches and pandering moments of sentiment. It's set in a Dublin,
Trifle
Ireland.
and pandering.
Really? It's set in a Dublin, Ireland community during 1967, and it involves three local women, Lily, Eileen, and Dolly, who are striving to win a pilgrimage to Lourdes, France, which, of course, is noted for its sacred healing waters. Lily, played by Maggie Smith, and Eileen, played by Kathy Bates, are both facing medical issues, and Dolly, played by Agnes O'Casey, is desperate to get her mute son to speak. So they all believe Lourdes is the answer to their prayers, so to speak. But they don't reckon with the arrival of one-time friend Chrissy, who has returned to Ireland for her mother's funeral after decades in America. Lily and Eileen have long felt that the very stylish Chrissy abandoned her mother and their community, so the resentments come to a head as Chrissy takes her mother's place on the trip to Lourdes. Did I mention that Chrissy is played by Laura Linney? I mean, that's right. Maggie Smith, Kathy Bates, and Laura Linney.
How can this not be a great movie?
All director Thaddeus O'Sullivan had to do was to tell the ladies, action!
Exactly.
And stand back. But the script is creaky and gets treacly. All right, the star.
I don't even know what treacly is.
You know
but
what
it doesn't
treacle
sound
is?
good.
It's that gooey. It's the treacle. It's kind of gooey.
I will ding it because I did not even know what the word
goo.
is.
It's goo.
Okay, it's gooey.
The script is creaky. The star power here, though, is unassailable. As much as I admire and enjoy seeing Smith, Bates, and Linney in any project they do, it would take a miracle to make me watch The Miracle once more. It is in theaters.
Citizen Swain says it's terrible. Wow. And I guess
she schlepped along with me.
Is that well, I was wondering how she saw it. She went with you. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. You both agree it was bad.
Heather,
well,
I heard Heather's eyes rolling, actually, next to me in the theater.
Leave us with one more, if you would, please, Michael Snyder.
Throughout his career to date, German filmmaker Christian Petzold has specialized in very dark and provocative movies. I'm really fond of one recent Petzold offering, Transit, which is a 2018 alternate history drama about a modern-day German political refugee trying to escape fascism, leaving occupied Paris and getting stuck in Marseille, where he falls in love with the wrong woman. So Petzold's latest, A Fire, might be his best so far. In A Fire, two friends, Leon and Felix, are on a summer getaway to the seaside vacation home that belongs to Felix's family. Uptight Leon, played by Thomas Schubert, is a writer who wants to use the time away to finish his latest novel, while the free spirit, he's a free spirit, this guy, Felix. Langston Oibel is the actor. He's a photographer trying to assemble a portfolio, but their plans are upended when they discover a young woman named Nadja is unexpectedly living at the house for the summer season. Nadja is played by Petzold favorite Paula Beer, star of his previous movie, Undine, which is this weird myth-heavy romance. As noted in my eulogies for Anchor Brewing online, I do love beer. And I also love beer. This girl, Beer, is something else. Anyway, a good-looking lifeguard enters the picture, as does Leon's editor, and All the while, a forest fire creeps closer and closer to the nearby town and Felix's family house in the woods. But that fire is nothing next to the psychological, ready, conflagration that Nadja inspires in Leon, or the tension that develops between Leon and Felix. Petzold really excels at depicting really difficult relationships and the accompanying tensions that can spring up between people, and A Fire is positively blazing in that regard. Highly recommended in theaters. Yes, it's in German and a few other random languages with English subtitles.
Oh.
A Fire.
Randy asks, has Michael Snyder given a recent review of the movie Sound of Freedom? Just curious what his take on this movie was or is.
The QAnon movie that features Jim Caviezel,
is that what it
right-wing
is?
apologist,
is
that
that
roped
what it is?
in Mia Sorvino to play a small role. Is that
is
the
that
movie?
what is that what it is?
You cannot say you
It's
love your
all
country.
about child trafficking, but they never
Seriously,
showed.
is Randy? Are you accused her? I didn't know that.
No, they showed me the. I showed them my liberal bona fides, and they said, "You can't come to this movie. You can't come to this film."
Sound of Freedom. I haven't.
No, it's a major under the radar success, playing to the far right, and
They're screening it at the Trump rallies and whatnot. At Mar-a-Lago, they're having a screening.
Wow!
At Bedminster, that's where
it's that. It's the the lefties are child sex traffickers. Is that essentially the theme?
I haven't seen it because they didn't show it to me. Like I said, they saw my voting record and said, "You can't come to this film."
I see. Too bad. It's being sold as a conservative thriller. Sorry, Randy. You can review it for maybe Randy will do a review.
Hey,
send me the email and I'll let's review Michael Snyder's reviews that encompass more mainstream fare. We'll start with A Fire. You kind of liked it.
I did. I thought it was really well made, and again, it's in a foreign language. Scaredy cats, but I think it's really worth it.
Yeah, go for it. In German, but with subtitles. The Miracle Club, chock full of talent. Oscar-winning and Oscar-nominated talent. It misses. It misses. Sadly, that talent doesn't have a script on which to rest their great performances.
Not worth their skill set, no.
Yeah. Wow. Sad, but Michael says no.
No, no, no.
Exactly. Theater Camp. He liked it.
I really enjoyed watching that movie.
He enjoyed it. He really liked Theater Camp. Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Part 1. He really liked it. He said, look, it's not the greatest movie ever or anything, but it's, for what it is, a thrill ride and an adventure. It hits it hard.
It both rocks and rolls.
Wow, I love it. So Mission Impossible, but you say, see it in the theater, that's where it belongs, and that's where you belong seeing it, right?
I'd say so.
Did you really just do that?
I did.
I did too.
Michael, your latest columns in the Marina Times. Anything you want to relate to us?
Big thing on Indiana Jones and the Indiana Jones franchise. All these, by the way, are available at marinatimes.com. And my my Coastal Commuter column is all about tastes and food items that bring back memories that are rich and resonant. And I focused a little on these delicious wafers known as pizzelles, these anise-flavored waffle cookies that brought back memories of San Francisco in the 80s. And oh, my God.
Well, Michael, I wish we had more time to listen to you, but we have to move on. I will tell you that Michael can be seen in the Marina Times, and he can be heard here. Strike or not, there is still product being released. Am I right, Michael Snyder?
Until it's all gone. That's absolutely right.
He comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Michael.
The Giants are back, everybody. Go
the
Giants.
Giants are back.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, it's always nice to get a little jump on the weekend from the Culture Blaster. Tim, Albert, Tim, I just called you Tim. Kim.
Whatever.
Kim, how are you?
I can't believe it. We're done. We're done. Do I have any other business to do, Albert, prior to saying goodbye is the question.
Yeah, Albert, thank you.
We had some shout outs. I know we kind of put it on the back burner, but we got to get to some of these from Kathleen
We should
Bryant.
never back burner these things. Super sticker from Kathleen Bryant for $20. Come on.
Big shout out.
I like to finish the week strong. We may be able to live for another week. Pamela Kirby, we love you. Thank you.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
They were both Pamela, right?
No, Kathleen.
Kathleen and Pamela. Do we have another Pamela earlier today or something? Why am I don't know, for whatever reason that. But thank you, Pamela. And
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Lori above the bar.
Lori above the bar. Another tip in the jar from huge fan of the show, Daniel D. Happy Friday, everyone. From Lori above the bar. There's $24.99.
Big shout
out to the Red Jack. And I'm not going to cry.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
But I must tell you, when I went into the Red Jack and I saw all the stickers and the Mark merch, I wanted to tear up.
They have Mark merch there?
They have a bunch of merch. They got a bunch of our stickers off markmerch.com.
Cool.
And they had a hat I saw behind the bar. And yeah, sadly, the people I really...
kind of a big deal.
The people I really wanted to see, Lori and Mark, they were sleeping above the bar where they live. Right. So, alas, I didn't get a chance to meet them, but I really appreciate their support.
Yeah.
Albert, is that it?
That is it.
Good
Albert,
day, sir.
Would you like to say anything, Albert? I feel as though you owe the audience a word. Would you like to say something this week? How do you feel you've done? How do you feel your performance has been this week, Albert?
It's been okay. You know how what I say, Mark. You set the bar
get
just
degrees.
high enough.
Yeah.
Set the bar just high enough so you can always reach it.
Yeah, you don't set the bar high.
Albert, thank you.
Kim, how do you feel you've been this week? Are you happy with yourself?
I feel like I could have done better.
Yeah. You see, Albert, what Kim did? She left the door open for a better performance.
Kim, how are you?
So, I don't know. Something I think for all of us in what Kim's response suggests. I feel I could have done better, you see. Maybe I will. The only one who's really kind of happy with his low-grade performance is Albert, which is...
maybe
Albert, thank you.
His system, I think,
yeah, maybe there is something to that. I'll remind you that we will start this show an hour later, 11 a.m. Pacific time, beginning August 1st, and Nikki's show will start at 9 a.m. It should go 9 to 11. I'll go 11 a to 1 p. Pacific times. You can find us at themarkthompsonshow.com. Click-throughs to the ways you can support. Thank you, all of you, for joining us every day. Really do love our community.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Shadow Stevens. Love that. Thanks to Jim
Bye-bye.
Avila, Michael Snyder, everybody who joined us, John Daly. Till Monday. Bye-bye.